Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 10. Trying to remember which number it was there. Playoff race number 2 of Season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of what's left of Michael Norman after a horrific crash over in Turn 4, getting ready here for the first elimination race of the season. Michael, we had 13 drivers start, only 8 will move on. One of them we know, Joe DeSpirito winning last week, but the other 7 drivers, some of them currently in somewhat, I don't know, mathematically safe positions, I guess you could say, but some other drivers right around that cut line, either just above or just below.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be able to position themselves. Sorry, that wrecked me a little bit of brain damage.
Just a tad.
But it's going to see who can position themselves into the proper spots at the end of this race to pick up maximum points.
Couple of things to follow up as we show you.
These cars go really fast.
They do. A couple of things to follow up on as here we bring you your playoff points coming into this race. You see that cut line. Josh Metallic, Greg Palmer, right now they are tied for the number 8 seed. 1 point back Brian Schilling, only 5 points back, or correction, 6 points back would be JT Mayhew, and then 9 points back Mark Paglia. Tim Nofsker, he'd need at least a top 10 to be able to advance, and Kelly Causey, who missed last week's first playoff race, he's in a must-win situation, even though he got provisional points. You see him a total of 34 points below the cut line, and I believe we have a total of 32 drivers taking the green flag here tonight. Another name you'll see that is above the cut line, that's second in points Grant Wesley. We didn't see him in the first playoff race of the Barebones Racing Series earlier on this week, Monday night, and he is not in the field again here this evening. He told us a couple of weeks ago that he needed to have a good first playoff race to make sure he had a cushion above the cut line, so he hopefully, with his lack of start tonight, he wouldn't fall below the cut line. You can see mathematically 25 points to the good. With provisional points, it'll be interesting, Michael. We won't really know until after the points are accumulated and everything, if indeed Grant Wesley was able to do enough last week to move on to the next round.
Yeah. And noticing that, unless you said it already, I didn't hear if you said it, Tim had to leave for a work emergency.
Oh, really?
Tim Nofsker, yes.
Okay, did not know that, so that is more than likely.
I think it might have just happened.
Okay, good follow-up there. So Nofsker, who came into this race, what was it, 21 points below the cut line, more than likely is now not going to advance into the round of 8. Brian Schilling gets the pole position here tonight via the random qualifying draw. He'll have Bernie Mobbs to his outside. Greg Palmer, who comes into this race in that tie for the 8th position in points. Our season opening winner going to be on the inside of row number 2 alongside of Chuck McClure, who won the last time we were here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway 2 weeks ago. McClure 3rd in overall points coming into this one. Bob Dixon and Brian Rawson, they're in row 3. Chris Emery, Glenn Harris in row 4. Joe DeSpirito, he knows he's moving on to the round of 8 after his victory last week. He's going to share the rest of the top 10 with Jessica Shelton. Josh Metallic, he's back in row 6 alongside of Bob Seminara. Both of those drivers coming into this race above the cut line. Seminara 4th in points. Metallic in that tie with Palmer for 8th. Terry Bombard and Mark Paglia, they're going to make up row number 7. Mark Paglia coming into this one currently below the cut line by 9 points. Jeremy Jeffries, who is 5th in overall standings. He is alongside of Jason Scheck back in row number 9. Cy Jones and JT Mayhew going to make up the remainder of the top 20. JT coming into this race 10th in overall points, 6 points below the 8th in the standings cut line. It'll be Bobby Farrell and Kelly Causey in a must-win situation back in row number 10. Row 11 is going to find Rodney Sullins, who comes into this one 5th in overall points, 7 points above the cut line alongside of Ron Hagelin. Wiley Coate and Donnie Garrett back in row number 12. Tim Nofsker, as you mentioned, Michael, not in the field, the work emergency. He would have rolled off from the 25th position with John Godfrey in 26th. Row 14 would be Richard Martin and Jeff Crivello. Row 15, Doug Kulik and Ulysses Poppy Sandoval making his Talladega Challenge debut here tonight. And in the final row will be John Van Gorder and Tom Dixon. 66 laps of racing here tonight at Burt Screwdriver's Raceway. At the end of this one, 8 drivers will be moving on to the next round of the playoffs. 5 drivers will be eliminated. Green flag is waving as Brian Schilling going to lead them into turn 1.
That 143 did not get a good start. Real quick, I want to throw out to the chat here. Our friend Ulysses Sandoval was wondering what the name of the intro song is for us.
I'm not 100% certain, but ironically enough, I do know it is a Christmas song. Well, not a song, but Christmas music. It's got something to do with Santa Claus. I don't remember what the exact
Seth,
title of it is.
You have what do you use? OBS, right? You
Yeah.
have OBS, so it should tell you the file name if you were to look it up.
No, actually, it doesn't. It doesn't have a name. It just says media file whatever number.
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
It kind of is.
Already up towards the middle lane here. Single file the first 5 cars before you get back to Josh Metallic. Do you see Jessica Shelton up there? Let's pray that she doesn't have the same issues she had last week at Talladega to mess her race over this week.
Yeah, I had some internet connection problems last week. Blinked out from, what was it, the second position, I think it was.
No, but it wasn't internet problems. She said her game like froze for a second.
Yeah, disappeared from like the second position and reappeared about 7 car lengths behind the lead pack, was never able to recover.
Hope that doesn't happen again. Look at this. Look at how quickly they're going single file running that middle lane.
Trying to crest 200 miles per hour, 199 for Schilling, and not quite to the 200 mile per hour going into turn 1.
No, you figure everyone behind Schilling would be able to hit 200 if he was the lead car.
Probably, yeah. Brian Schilling coming into this one only 1 point below the cut line. So as of right now, if we had live point stands, I think it's pretty safe to say he would be in.
Now we have an outside lane going. Jessica Shelton, first car to break that single file line. Now she's going to run the outer lane coming up, trying to get alongside the 17 of Chuck McClure.
Josh Metallic up there with her. Terry Bombard, Jeremy Jeffries as well.
You got a more awake co-commentator today, especially after that 2 hours we sat through earlier.
Yeah.
Well, the outside lane kind of died out now. It's only 3 cars out there. Everybody else went to the back to the middle lane. So now that very outside lane might start falling back.
Sometimes see that inside line here at this particular super speedway be a little bit more prevalent, but it's only about maybe 5 cars down there. Chris Emery, the bright yellow 000, the first car highest up in that lane.
Those wall cameras down the back straightaway are really cool to see all the cars come flying at you. Look at that 92 Bobby Farrell. That looks like that's a Petty font.
Yes, it is.
On a Petty blue Ford, with unsponsored though. Surprised there's not an STP sponsor on that. Ooh boy, those cars in the back though.
A lot of movement back there. Rodney Sullivan's now jumping down to the inside line. There's Kelly Causey in the 00. Must-win situation for him coming into this one after having to take a provisional last week.
Oh boy, they're single file up at the front, but they're 3 wide further on in the pack.
Cy Jones charging up the middle line. He's up to P6. Farrell, who you pointed out, now in 7th. Donnie Garrett there in 8th. Running without the assistance of a 326 car.
Who is that car? Who is that yellow car with just the dots on it?
Chris Emery.
Is it the 000 car?
That is the 000 car.
That explains it then.
I don't know why, but from first glance, it kind of makes me think of Pac-Man.
It does. A Pac-Man with 3 eyes.
Or remember those? What were they? Not the Tonka trucks, but there was like another kind of like construction vehicle diecast company, and it kind of reminds me of stuff that they made.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. Well, things are definitely stacking up in that middle line. I've seen a lot of checkup from about the 7th or
Oh
8th
my
car on
lord,
back.
look at this. Look this in this back here. Three in the very, very back of this pack. 3 wide, pushing all around.
Josh
Most of these
Metallic in the
cars.
middle of that.
Oh yeah, most of these cars definitely don't want to be here right now.
You see the
Is
Days
that
of
two
Thunder
STT?
throwback there of Joe DeSpirito. I mean, obviously for him, gotta feel good having that victory last week at Talladega. Knows he's locked into the round of 8. But at the same time, Joe DeSpirito is trying to continue to chase history. He's the only driver who has finished inside of the top 5 in every single one of the regular season races, and then followed up to continue his top 5 streak with a victory last week. So far, 9 races, 9 top 5 finishes for the number 24.
Are you saying he's the one?
Well, I'll tell you this. I ended up, I think I ended up messaging him about it back when he was having about 4 or 5 races in a row, and he said, hey, it's 2024. It's the year of the 24.
He just finished his top 5 every race, but fails to win the championship. No, I'm saying that as a tease. I'm not trying to pick fun.
Are you putting the commentator's curse on Joe? Because
Maybe
if
for
that's the
this
case,
race
I'm
only.
sure he'll have no qualms about the fact that he brake checked you in practice and caused you to flip.
He didn't brake check me. He just moved high when I was gonna go high.
Nah, he was blocking you. You know, I know, and Joe knows.
The SCP. Oh boy! Ooh, Ron Hagelin got really, really loose in that 111.
Chris Emery now leading the inside lineup here in a battle for, looks like 7th, with the Sunoco Chevrolet of Cy Jones.
Oh, there's battling and racing going on up here. I do believe we have 1 or 2 cars that have lost the draft. Those are Tom Dixon and Brian Rawson.
Was just about to mention that because I saw them back in the background there as well. So they would obviously be hoping for a yellow flag to be able to catch back up. Jeremy Jeffries now has moved down in front of Chris Emery. He'll take it side by side with Bernie Mobbs for the 4th position. You know, you look at the drivers that are just above or just below that cut line as far as the playoffs are concerned. Jeffries, Sullins, Metallic, Palmer, Schilling, Mayhew. Obviously, you want to go out there and you want to win this race. But at the same time, you got to kind of big picture race as well. We talk about how the differences of super speedway racing to speedway racing. Obviously, everybody's in a big pack. They're all nose to tail with this style of racing. How difficult is it to big picture race here? Because you and I have talked about it. It seems like you actually race better when you race aggressively. When you race a little more defensively and a little bit more passively, that's when you actually get yourself into trouble and make mistakes. So how do you balance that out?
You're asking me. It's a little hard, honestly, but it's something that you're gonna have to try to find the fine line between, and position yourself in the final stages, because you never know when a caution's gonna come out. Depending on if we have any lap cars by then or not, you know that the last caution that will end the race will come out about lap 61, 62, give or take. So you got to picture yourself by that time, by lap 60, to be in the proper place to make your move. And Seth, me and you, we just ran a Talladega race not too long ago. Actually, it was last night in a league race that was the same way. Wasn't this many cars in it, but it was still all about positioning yourself. Yep. So, and I won that race, by the way.
I was wondering if you were going to sneak that in there.
Yes. Win number 28 in my NR 2003 online career. Just saying.
Should I do like a New York to Florida reach over, pat you on the back? Bernie Mobbs now leading that inside line there.
It just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I don't know if you noticed that. Even on the straightaways,
yeah.
It just does not seem to be going anywhere, that inside line.
Which is odd, because when we go to Talladega, which we'll be at next week, the middle line we know obviously is prevalent. But we've seen when we come here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway how that inside line seems to be able to present more of a challenge to the middle group, especially when they get 3 wide. Then it's definitely the dominant lane. But to your point, they've continued to add numbers down there, but they've not been able to really make any progress. They don't gain, but they don't lose. They just kind of stay stagnant in the position that they're in.
Ooh, I saw Jeremy Jeffries move up to the outside lane there in a bit of a last-minute move to the top side here. So once again, cars just leaving that bottom lane. The bottom lane just really isn't going anywhere.
Got to give credit to the RTG admins during the course of this past week. Of course, remember back to last week, we ended up having a caution in the tri-oval. The field raced back to the start-finish line, received the yellow, which was the race-ending caution. There was an incident at the front of the field, and a lot of drivers were collected up, and they had to go through and try and figure out who was going to be scored where at the time that the caution flew coming back to the start-finish line, because a lot of drivers were either not up to speed or were so badly damaged they couldn't even drive back around to receive the checkered flag. So they put a lot of work into it, making sure that all the finishing results were correct, and the point standings we showed you, that is the way that it all was calculated at the end of the day.
So was it not race back then? Or was it just when the caution flew?
No, it was a race back, but remember the second incident was right at the start-finish line. So drivers would have crossed the line in certain positions, but may not necessarily have been able to get back up to those positions during the pacing laps.
That's true. Coming up on a lap car here.
Yeah, I'm kind of wanting to follow up on this. I'm waiting for my scoring to maybe tell me if Brian Rawson may have come to pit road, because they're showing the 6 is currently under penalty with a black flag. I don't know if he had just come to pit road and might have gotten a speeding penalty or not. If not, I'm not certain what the black flag would be for.
Let me see. I'm a co-commentator. I can see here. Yeah, he did in fact come on to pit road.
Okay.
Oh no, he didn't. He got spun, or he spun.
Oh.
Let's see what happened. He was coming up on the 45. And oh my lord, he bumper grabbed off the 45, and they both almost wrecked. And as he spun, Brian Rawson spun, he got it back going and went down pit road, which probably resulted in the caution for either speeding and or merging.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was probably speeding because he was going well over 100.
It's like Brian Rawson's coming in to serve that penalty right now. Being under green flag conditions, can't be cleared.
Tom Dixon's is going to be the next one to go lap down because of that. They've lost the pack more. And Seth, want to say about less than 4 laps away.
You want to be the commentator's curse instead of me? I'm fine with that.
I'll say it. We're about 4 laps away from pit stops.
And we have seen down the home stretch of this regular season, and even last week in the first playoff race, pit road has been a huge factor into who eventually moved on to be a part of the playoff 13 and played a huge part into who was in the conversation last week for the checkered flag. Brian Schilling, who's led all 16 laps so far, has got that #1 pit stall because of the random qualifying draw putting him on the pole. We'll see if that pans out into him if we end up completing a cycle of green flag pit stops, going back to the point.
Good news for the 6 car is he just made a pit stop, so he can get probably one of his laps back when the cycle of pit stops goes by.
Yep, I think he'll still be -1.
And then he'll be lucky dog.
Oh, he just actually got in the wall right there through the tri-oval.
Definitely think he's struggling a little bit.
You saw on the top of your screen there as the field was coming out of turn 4, Bob Dixon, Ron Hagelin. They dove onto pit lanes. So that will begin this green flag pit stop cycle.
Now, let's see. Do I see any more chats lighting up? Oh, I see the 31, 28, 43, 96. There's another round of people coming to pit road here. And let's not remember, you make a mistake that doesn't bring on a caution, that's going to cost you big time.
And we've been told that this pit road is a lot different getting onto as far as the entry than Talladega is. As Bob Seminare looks like he's going to be the first of the drivers in here. There's Mobbs, Donnie Garrett, Mark Paglia, Chris Emery, Richard Martin, Glenn Harris, Terry Bombard. There's Ulysses Sandoval, John Van Gorder. Expect to see probably the remainder of the field in this time by.
Yep, it should be. They're getting single file. Some of them are, anyways.
Schilling, Palmer, McClure, Cy, Jones, Jeremy, Jeffries. Right now, your top 5. This is probably going to be the biggest pack of the groups that have come to pit road so far. Let's see if they can all make it on safely here. We're almost 4 wide up.
92 spins, but
off the nose of Joe DeSpirito.
Okay. He was good, and he was okay. It was just a small spin. He should still be able to get on pit road.
There was a bump from Josh Metallic to the back of Cy Jones. We'll have to see. Oh, and he hit him again.
He's still
him. Oh, he parked it right in the middle of pit road. He was trying to get to his pit stall, but he had Metallic on his back bumper, and that's going to hold up the 24 of Joe DeSpirito.
Talk about little mistakes.
Yep.
That could cost DeSpirito this pack.
A lot of times we will usually just focus on the entry to pit road when it comes to green flag pit stops. And unfortunately, since we aren't able to cover every inch of the racetrack, we don't normally see incidents like that occur after they've crossed the commitment line. But a lot of action takes place from yellow line to yellow line, pit road entry to pit road exit. And then we kind of have to try and guess what happens when we see drivers lose track position after everything cycles around.
Which is why you have me up here to try to figure it out. Sometimes I'm not always here.
Even when you're here?
Even when I'm here,
No,
I'm not here. Well, Seth, now that we just had a fresh round of green flag pit stops and you see these drivers beginning to try to merge up, form that pack again, I think this would be a good time for a very quick commercial break.
Okay, Bob Seminary, you see, taking the race lead. The 712 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS out in front of Pac-Man and the Wrecking Ball. And we are going to step aside here for this FRN race break, as everybody will try and get bunched back up after getting split up from this first round of green flag pit stops at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. We welcome you back here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, playoff race number 2, elimination race number 1 for season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Bob Seminara out in front, but while we were gone, Michael, huge developing story. Josh Metallic, who came into this race, tied for 8th in points, that cut line driver.
He did not blow an engine.
He did not.
He did not. He just parked it.
Okay, the reason that I thought that he blew an engine, the reason for retirement is saying engine header.
Unless he did it while he was on pit road, or he had some type of maybe engine damage from hitting the 7, maybe. I don't know, but I just watched it, didn't see no smoke unless I had my smoke turned off, which I don't believe I do.
Wow.
But
I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's an elimination right there. There's no way mathematically that Metallic would be able to stay above the cut line, because coming into this one, he was the cut line.
Yeah, I have my smoke on. Everything else is high, and I didn't see any smoke out of that number 39.
Tough break there for the former champion, as look who's out in front. Ulysses Sandoval. Now, if you've tuned into our other coverage of other series, you'll remember that in the Talladega Nights Shake and Bake series, Ulysses Sandoval was usually up at the front, inside of the top 5 all evening long. He's making his Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge debut here tonight, and that Seafoam Green Subway number 96 out in clean air, got pushed there by Greg Palmer. A lot of these drivers have raced with Ulysses Sandoval over in Talladega Nights, so used to working with him, but I don't know, what do you think? Working on a little bit of an RTG resume here tonight for driver 96? I'm going to take that as a yes. Either that or you have your microphone muted, one or the other.
No, I'm sorry. I was dealing with a little bit of technical difficulty there. I was trying to fix it.
Ah, okay. Look at the run Jessica Shelton has got here. That second pack has reeled in the lead pack. She's got Kelly Causey there with her and Rodney Sullins.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Ooh, where do they go?
Ain't nowhere really they can go. Other than the very outside lane. But Seth, if you want to repeat what you said, I heard what you were talking about Ulysses Sandoval, but I didn't hear anything you said after that.
Oh, I was basically saying, you know, Sandoval has obviously raced with a number of the drivers that race here in the Talladega Challenge over in Talladega Nights. So they're used to racing with him. But here this evening with his debut, kind of putting together an RTG resume for Ulysses Sandoval.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what he can do. See the fight for the lead now. Up here, it's got to about, that's 111 on the lead lap? No, he's not.
Yes.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Well, we got 21 drivers, I think.
Yeah, there's 21 drivers.
Well,
here
20 drivers. Hagelin's in danger of losing this pack.
I don't know if if they check up a little bit, he might be able to stay on the snippet.
Donnie Garrett now out in the race lead.
So what I find interesting is almost every Chevy style car that I don't have a scheme for has a different sponsor. So it's the only way I know Jessica Shelton's car is because she's the only generic Chevrolet I have that has the Napa sponsor.
That seems appropriate. She had a Napa sponsorship back in the day.
Yeah.
Here comes Greg Palmer now to the inside for the top position. Of course, we mentioned about the fact last year, all of the main highlights of the season took place at Talladega, the season opener, the regular season ender, all the elimination races, and ultimately the season finale where the championship was on the line. This year, it's been Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway that has had all those specific areas of the playoffs and whatnot. And the first time we were here in the season opener at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, it was Greg Palmer who went to victory lane. And Greg has been out in front. He's been up in the top 3 or 4 most of the evening. Remember, he came into this race tied with Josh Metallic for that final playoff position. With Metallic out of the race, that gives Palmer, for the moment, a little bit of breathing space. A couple of drivers side by side right there. Bob Seminara in the 712 and Mark Pagley in the 28. I mentioned about the fact that the RTG admins were hard at work making sure they got the official finishing results from last week correct. Seminara ended up finishing 2 laps down according to the unofficial standings because he wasn't able to get up into the correct position where he was actually supposed to finish, so it ended up giving him a post-race penalty. The game did, that is. And Mark Paglia, who's just ahead of him, Paglia ended up crossing the line in the 13th position, got involved in that wreck over in turn 1 after they had taken the caution and did not have an engine left to be able to get back to the start-finish line to receive the checkered flag. He was given the 13th place finishing position, though, and came into this race closer to the cut line than he would have been had he had finished more than likely where the game had scored him, which I think was down somewhere around the 21st, 22nd position.
Oh, yeah.
Donnie Garrett in the 77. Talk about Chuck McClure. They're in that 17 running in the 4th place. The last time we were here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, he went to victory lane. Donnie Garrett had control of the last restart in that race and was deemed that he jumped the restart, so he ended up getting a post-race penalty, looking for a little redemption here 2 weeks later coming into BSR. Well, as of right now, we know that there are a few drivers that we can check off that are more than likely going to find themselves below the cut line at the conclusion of this one and will be eliminated from advancing into the round of 8. Tim Nofsker, documented earlier, did not make the grid due to the fact that he had an emergency he had to go to. He was below the cut line coming into this one. Kelly Causey is in a must-win situation, so if we don't see the 00 take the checkered flag in P1, he will more than likely be eliminated. And Josh Metallic, who came into this race, one of the cut line drivers, out of the race due to a mechanical failure. He will finish 30th place here tonight. I mentioned about the fact, too, that for Kelly Causey, it is a must-win situation. It absolutely is now because I don't recall off the top of my head if a driver ends up getting bonus points for winning the race. It looked like 32 drivers were going to take the green flag this evening, but actually only 30 drivers did. So if there are no points for a driver winning in the standings, the point standings in calculation for just the race itself, that's only 30 points available on the table, and Causey came into this race 34 points in the hole.
Coming up at the completion of this lap is a halfway officially. The car's starting to get single file out again, Seth. We're not that far away from pit stops again.
Ooh, man, there, Donnie Garrett. I don't know if he just had a better tri-oval corner or if Greg Palmer pushed up, but I thought Garrett was going to look to the inside. But JT Mayhew in the 338, running up here inside of the top 10. Reason I'm focusing on him is because before
Bob
the pits...
Seminara.
Yep.
Sorry, he's
no, I just saw it too.
Up there, yep.
But
that seems to settle out for now.
Going back to the JT Mayhew situation, before we ended up getting to that round of pit stops, they ended up encountering the 6 of Brian Rawson, and Rawson kind of slowed up a couple of cars, and one of them was JT Mayhew, who seems to like to ride at the back in the early going of these races. I was worried that he was going to lose out on the draft, but apparently that was not the case. He had a good pit stop and was able to merge with this lead group, as Ulysses Sandoval you saw there in the 096 coming to pit road and coming down pit road all by himself.
Not sure if this is scheduled or unscheduled here. I'm not sure what exactly he's thinking about.
I have a thought of what it might be, but I'm going to wait.
2 tires and full gas.
Okay, he is taking a normal pit stop? Okay.
What do you think it was?
I wondered if he might be going over for testing races at another series. As of right now, we have 2 drivers that are a lap down that would be in the free pass position should we get a yellow. Joe DeSpirito is the first of those, and Tom Dixon is the second. DeSpirito obviously a lap down due to what we saw, the contact on pit road between himself and Cy Jones. So how good has that got to be for Joe DeSpirito, knowing he's locked into the round of 8, having the hardship here, because it could have been an entirely different story at the conclusion of this one if he's not able to get back on the lead lap.
That's true, but however, that first spot is about to be taken by Ulysses Sandoval here as he gets lapped.
Well, Sandoval is...
Maybe he can hang on to this pack right here.
If he does, he'd be in the second lucky dog position. DeSpirito is in the...
Oh, I see that 24 right there.
8th spot on the inside line, I think, there.
Yeah, I see him.
Bob Dixon's coming in.
Oh, the Dixon's coming in. That must mean these cars will be breaking down from pit road within the next lap and 2 laps from now as well.
Yeah, it'd be around the right time. About average of 19 laps they can go on fuel, and we just completed lap 36. So about 2 laps out from when everybody is going to have to make the dive onto pit road.
Oh, that 22 and 77 are real close.
Ooh, 77 got the apron right there.
Look at all these Dodges. We got Dodges, Buicks, Chevrolets.
Got a little bit of everything. We got Ford Thunderbirds. We've got Buick Regals. We've got Dodges. We've got Chevy Luminas. We've got Chevy Impalas. We've got Chevy Monte Carlos. Garrett's coming in. Oh no! Mark Pagley gets spun right back up into traffic. JT Mayhew, Chuck McClure involved. And that's going to be our first caution of the evening.
Oh, and guess who? The 24 came down pit road this time.
No, he didn't.
Oh, I thought he did. He might have turned out.
He might have gotten back up before they got to the commitment line.
But him and Ulysses should be the lucky
Whoa!
dogs.
Jason Scheck with a little bump there from John Van Gordon.
That's gonna help that's gonna help that second pack that was about to get lapped too.
Also throws up the question of if those drivers that were on pit road, if they were going to be able to take service or not. They might have had to just pass through pit road. But that was 3 of our playoff drivers right there that were involved in that one. McClure, Paglia, and JT Mayhew. We'll go back, take a look at what happened here. Pit road will be open. Brian Schilling's going to lead them down. Paglia shot back up the racetrack. I don't know who the car was that was behind him. Was it Seminara, I think, in the 712?
Yeah, it was Seminara in the 712. Hooked him right up into the 17. And I don't know how Jess got through that. But
yeah.
she did hit the wall a couple times, but it didn't seem like a lot. Actually, I want to ride on board. Me personally want to ride on board with Jessica and see how she got through that.
Doug Hewlett also got a piece of it there.
She went from the bottom lane to the very outside lane.
Looked like JT Mayhew was planning on staying out an extra lap.
She never lifted. I don't think she ever lifted.
See the 23 of Doug Hewlett, his front tires coming off the ground.
No, she never lifted.
I mean, sometimes it's what you got to do to make sure that you get ahead of the cars sweeping up the track. That's some pretty good rear end damage there for JT Mayhew. And let's see, at the time that this wreck occurs, we'll try and freeze frame it here. So I'm assuming right around here is when the caution comes out. And let's see about our leaders. Oh yeah, there's Donnie Garrett, who was the first one to dive on the pit road. And you can see there is a huge amount of distance between him and that cut line of the entrance of pit road. So there is no way he made it there before the yellow flag flew. Matter of fact, we can kind of take it frame by frame. Watch the flagman right side of the screen. He's got the flag indicating if pit road is open or closed. And right there you see he's bringing it out. And Garrett is not yet to the pit line. See on the left side of your screen there, Joe DeSpirito. He's making the turn back up onto the racetrack. Pretty sure that the 77 had to come down pit road, pass through, and not take service. Otherwise, he would have gotten a EOL penalty on the upcoming restart. Looks like Joe DeSpirito and Ulysses Sandoval would have been the 2 lucky dog drivers here. Sandoval coming down pit road.
These guys trying to kind of figure out where they're all at, spread all around this racetrack here. It says the 143 is the race leader, at least the last time they crossed the start-finish line.
And that would be correct. Remember, Bob Dixon came to pit road the lap before that incident occurred. Left pit lane, still on the lead lap, so when everybody came down pit road, he was able to gain all that track position. So a very timely caution working out for the driver of the 143 STP Dodge. So he's going to be the one to lead us back to green. Brian Schilling, Kelly Causey, Greg Palmer, Jeremy Jeffries look like they're going to be the top 5. You see them throwing in the clutch there. This next restart is probably going to be somewhere in the vicinity of 25 laps to go, outside of their window to be able to make it the rest of the way, but could play a difference into how much fuel they would have to take on that final pit stop. We should be getting the wondering this next time by. Actually, it looks like Ulysses Sandoval, Ron Hagelin may be the lucky dog drivers. We'll have to follow up on that one. I don't know if because Joe DeSpirito was coming down pit road, if those two actually bypassed him when the field was frozen for the caution. But looks like the 24 may still remain a lap down. We'll follow up on all that and much more when we come back here to the action from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway here in race number 10 of Season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this FRN race break. Lights out atop the Chevrolet Corvette pace car.
Dad, stop hogging all the pizza.
I can't help it. It's too delicious.
God, this guy, listen, it's so much hard commentating with this guy because all he does is just hog all the food.
I mean, if you were me and you were you, would you?
Maybe? I don't know how to answer that question.
I feel like that was something out of a Dr. Seuss book. Anyway, time into that caution. Very lucky for Bob Dixon, as he's going to be the one to lead us back to green. Brian Schilling, Kelly Causey, Greg Palmer, Jeremy Jeffries. That's your top 5. You saw there during our FRN race break, Ulysses Sandoval and Ron Hagelin both got the lucky dogs back in the lead lap. Tom Dixon, Joe DeSpirito still -1. And a few laps ago, Josh Metallic was joined in the garage area by Brian Rawson, who will finish in 29th place here this evening.
Oh, it wasn't the 24 then like we thought was going to be the lucky dog.
Yeah, I think what might have happened was when DeSpirito made the dive to come to pit road, he slowed up enough that Hagelin and Sandoval bypassed him. At that point, it would have still
Sandoval
been
we knew for
frozen
sure.
field.
Yeah, at Sandoval we knew for sure.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they bypassed him when the caution came out, and with frozen field, they were the first 2 cars 1 lap down and got the lucky dogs. So just while DeSpirito managed to not come to pit lane, we saw him swerve back out to the right to avoid the commitment line. He had slowed up enough that it forfeited both of those slots for lucky dog positioning. So now he's got to rely on another yellow flag to come out here. Does the streak come to an end tonight for driver 24?
The way it's looking, you never know. I wouldn't count him out.
He's running out of laps. That's one thing.
7:12 back there, blinking again, but he's okay now. As the 4 is right back where he was at the start of this race. When was the last time, if you can remember, Seth, we had somebody who started on the pole and won the race? And the other question is, has it happened this season?
Not this season. It has not happened this season. I think, and please don't quote me on this because I'm not 100%
Okay, I'll
certain.
quote you.
I think it might have been Jeremy Jeffries a couple of seasons ago here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway.
All right, you heard him right here. I'm quoting him right now. That's what he said.
I said don't quote me. I threw out the disclaimer.
The disclaimer song?
The tough part to remember, especially in the last couple of seasons, is because of the random qualifying draw. Back when we first started broadcasting, they had where drivers went out in qualifying and they got to determine their starting positions by setting a qualifying lap. Now, with the random qualifying draw, it's kind of hard to remember all of who's actually on the pole position in a lot of these. Usually, a lot of your drivers that used to, back in the day, qualify up in the top 3, 4, 5, 6, they're not there. They're mid-pack in the starting lineup. A lot of movement back around.
Yeah, they're moving all around here.
Around that 10th position. John Van Gorder up here. Good run for him in the 19. Just ahead of Jeremy Jeffries. Bob Dixon on the bottom of the racetrack. He didn't get a very good restart, so he's been kind of free-falling back outside now of the top 10. Kelly Causey right behind him. It doesn't look like Chuck McClure got very much damage from that wreck on the front straightaway, our only caution of the night. He's back up here inside of the top 10 in 6th. JT Mayhew is currently in 21st, and Mark Paglia is currently in 17th. I believe they're all up here still in this lead pack and up to speed, so 3 playoff contenders involved in that incident, but it doesn't look like it has affected their capability of advancing into the round of 8 at all.
No, I believe that mostly they were kind of just all spins.
Yeah, spins. Yeah, exactly.
Really
I would have been a little bit concerned about the front end hit for JT Mayhew when the 28 came back up in front of him, but it doesn't look like it's really affecting him all that much either.
I don't think so either. As you see, a couple cars trying the inside lane. I don't know how effective it's going to be, though.
Now, I've thrown this disclaimer out there a lot, and I'm going to continue to throw it out there. Math is... Is that the disclaimer song? The Unisonus disclaimer song?
Yep, that was the Unisonus disclaimer song.
I thought it was. You're taking me back. Way back. But my math is not always the best, especially when it comes to super speedway racing, because there's so many moving pieces in points that are on the line. But I'm looking right now at drivers that can capitalize that were below the cut line to move into the round of 8. Brian Schilling out in front. He's led the most laps so far tonight, 25 in total. Started on the pole position. He's looking like even if he doesn't close out this victory, he's going to have a decent enough points night that he'll be able to move into the round of 8, more than likely displacing out Josh Metallic after his mechanical failure. I'm looking at some other drivers that are below said cut line like JT Mayhew and Mark Paglia. The driver they would be looking at this point in time would be Grant Wesley, who had 25 points over the rest of the drivers down around that cut line coming into this one, and will get provisional points at the conclusion of the night as well. I'm honestly not sure where Mayhew and Causey are currently running if they would make up enough points to knock Wesley out of the round of 8. So I think right now you're looking at a battle between Schilling, Schilling, Paglia, and Mayhew, as to who of those three is going to move in and knock the 39 out. I think Wesley is safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of them is leading right now as well. Schilling.
However, he's also using up more fuel that way.
Well,
We
I mean,
know that when we went back green, these drivers were going to be about 5 laps short.
Yeah, they're within the pit window now. They're not. I don't think any of these drivers can make it the rest of this way on gas.
But the thing I'm thinking is the disadvantage that he would have if he's out in front using more fuel. These drivers can go about 20 laps on 2 cans. So if it's about 5 laps to the finish, you come down pit road, you can maybe take on a half can to the finish. If you're Brian Schilling, you're going to have to take on a can. There's no way you'd be able to save enough, I don't think, out in front here in clean air to take on the half can.
Jeffries just came down right in front of that 9.
Shelton having to check up on that inside line because of that. But I think if you're the 4, you're going to have to take on a can of fuel now. Everybody else behind you, if they've been able to half throttle and save enough, they could come down and gain some time on you with only taking on a half can. As Donnie Garrett down on the apron there.
Great save.
Look out, look out! Oh, Paglia getting forced up the track by Cy Jones.
They saved it.
Wow.
Oh, my Lord.
I think Cy was trying to give Donnie Garrett room back up the racetrack, and Mark Paglia saying, hey, car high. That's going to shuffle the 28 back about 4 or 5 positions. Great save there by Mark Paglia. That could have very easily been our second caution of the night.
And would have just erased our entire fuel strategy.
It definitely would have. Well, Brian Schilling, that Kodak Chevrolet, the Bobby Hamilton, Ernie Irvin.
I don't know why it sounded like you said LeBron.
LeBron Schilling.
LeBron James.
But he has led now a total of 29 laps. That is more than likely going to secure the bonus point for most laps led here this evening.
The one car went high and nobody went with them.
No. Oh, he's back in line. I was about to sing "One is the Loneliest Number," but I don't have to now. 9 laps led so far here tonight by Greg Palmer. 3 laps out in front for Bob Dixon. 5 laps led for Bob Seminara, and then 2 apiece for Donnie Garrett and Ulysses Sandoval.
All right, Seth. Here's the question: We make it to the end of this run for green flag pit stops. Do you try to pit early to avoid a very busy pit road, or do you pit at the absolute last second to take on the least amount of fuel?
I think you got to pit at the last second if you're going with the strategy of taking on a half can. You pit 1 lap early, that's 1 lap you're potentially going to be short.
So what happens if it's within the point where if a caution comes out, the race is over?
You pray that you have a Grant Wesley fuel tank. No, I mean, we do have a couple of lap machines, so we know the point of no return will be in the next 7 laps.
61, yep. 61 will be the point of no return with the lap car.
I'm
almost sure on that.
I don't really know off the top of my head. Like, I think, let's see. We went back green. These drivers would be about lap 60 when they would probably have to come to pit road. I don't think you can save 5 to 6 laps.
Even under pacing.
Even under pacing, because you'd be running probably somewhere around
70 miles an
hour.
One
lap short, or 1 lap left on fuel if the caution came out at the point of no return. I don't see how you could do that.
According to Larry Mack, two caution laps is equal to 1 green flag lap. So
that would still have them 1 short then. If you consider about 4 or 5 pacing laps there.
Dalton just cannot work her way back up to the front. Now we have an outside lane coming in. Look who it is. And I'm not talking about the 1 car. I'm talking about the one behind him.
Yeah, well, Jeremy Jeffries, let's remember, too, the streak that he was on a couple of seasons ago where he had 3 wins in a row right here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. He loves this racetrack, and right now he's in a position to advance into the round of 8. Came into this one 5th in points. He was 7 points above the cut line.
He's 1 lap down, but still gonna help with the draft pack. That's 24.
Joe DeSpirito could be a proverbial X factor. Now, here's an interesting thought, Michael. Going back to your whole question about fuel strategy, if you're coming down pit road to take on a full can of fuel, you'd be coming to pit lane here in the next 2 to 3 laps. Maybe some of these drivers will elect to come down pit road then, so that way they could stay on the lead lap, and if we do have the caution come out at the point of no return, then they know for absolute certain that they'd be able to clutch and save enough fuel to get to the checkers. They wouldn't have to pit under the caution period.
Exactly. So,
and I feel like if you're at the back of the pack here, why not go with that strategy, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Do something different. If you're riding back there in 18th, 19th, 20th, you're probably just going to ride in 18th, 19th, 20th. Do something different. Make something happen. Whoa, Cy Jones is making something happen as he went down towards the inside wall. And he hit it. I'm not certain. He's coming to pit road. I'm not certain if he was planning on coming to pit road right there, if something went wrong on his end, but he headed straight down for the inside safer barrier there. And he definitely made contact with it. Could see the set of skid marks.
He hit the apron, and then he just got loose off the corner.
Down below the racing surface, so no caution flies, but a tough break there for Cy Jones as, whoa, Rodney Sullins gets crossed over by Jeremy Jeffries with Ulysses Sandoval in tow.
Ulysses now down in front of the 4.
Next time by, windows open if you want to try and play the strategy of just taking on 1 can of fuel. Sullins with a push from Kelly Causey. Must-win situation for the 00 to advance. And he's there in the conversation.
This is going to be interesting, Seth. Keep your eyes on this pack.
Look at that third lane up there.
Yep, I was just about to say, third lane forming.
It's the Florida gang.
It's not dead man walking, it's third lane forming.
It's the Mobbs Motorsports driver, Seminara, Bernie Mobbs, and the lap machine of Joe DeSpirito.
Ooh, that 00 is almost close enough to drop to the inside, but not
that
quite.
712 is warping again. He almost warped into the 23 of Doug Kulik. And here we
we
go. This is what I was talking about. These drivers are taking on a can of fuel. Oh, John Van Gorder just hit the inside wall.
Ulysses Sandoval locked it up coming to pit road. That's not really what you want to do.
Especially if you're not planning on taking on any tires and just taking fuel. Now, these drivers, in order for this strategy to work out, they cannot have a caution come out yet until these drivers hit pit road. Looks like Seminara is dropping back there. That warp issue still causing problems for him. Rodney Sullins now out in front, another driver who loves this racetrack. Took a couple of checkered flags here at this venue last season. And here comes in another big group.
And Ulysses Sandoval was first out of pit road among that pack. Oh, a couple cars went too wide.
Jason Scheck. Oh, Mark Paglia's going to get into Glenn Harris. Bouncing off of cars, John Godfrey, Wiley Coates.
There was nothing much he could do on that because he was just out in the grass and there's no grip out there.
Paglia, another of our playoff contenders, came in below the cut line, needed a good run. He was 9 points below. And that may have just cost him a chance of advancing into the round of 8. Race leader right now, I believe, is Chris Emery. Bernie Mobbs, lap car of Joe DeSpirito, JT Mayhew, Bob Seminara all out. Are they going to come to pit road this time? Yes, they are.
I'm keeping my eye on the 96 of Ulysses Sandoval. He was the one that came out of pit road of the first group.
JT Mayhew gonna stay out another lap. Remember back during the, I think it was the, I want to say it was race 5 or race 7 at Talladega when he and Terry Bombard tried pulling off the heist of the century on fuel strategy. They came up about a half lap short, but JT Mayhew electing to run long here. I don't know if he might be trying to reach the window where he could come down pit road and just take on a half can of fuel. There's no way he can make it the rest of the way. And he's going to make the dive onto pit road this time. Wiley Coate just up ahead of him in the 5. I believe Wiley was on pit road previously, so he'd be coming down to serve a penalty right here. Same for Mark Paglia in the 28. Emery coming off pit road. Mobbs coming off pit road. Here's the group with all the energy, being led by Rodney Sullins in the 38. Rodney's been in the Final Four to compete for the championship numerous times the last couple of seasons, looking for one step further to do it again. As looks like Bernie Mobbs is coming down pit road. That would be due to a black flag penalty, I would assume. JT Mayhew coming off of pit lane there. Doesn't look like he's going to cycle anywhere close to inside of the top 10.
Can that second pack run down this first one, Seth?
They are...
Ulysses Sandoval's last stop was a 48-1.
And in this group, they were 47-7.
47-7, yeah.
So they are definitely catching. Plus, they're going to catch a little bit of the draft. Whoa, 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 what's happening up here? Jeremy Jeffries was down in the apron.
96 is also up high. Now they're really good to catch these cars.
Yeah, for sure. Jeremy was on the apron. They were 4 wide.
Did he maybe catch the apron, or was it?
Oh, and then Donnie Garrett. Where's Donnie going? He went down below the yellow line to bypass Chris Emery. Well, we've gotten to the point of never lift. It's the point of no return, so no one's going to trail the break.
Oh,
Donnie, Garrett.
Really? Just try to pull up in front of people, man. Sorry.
Greg Palmer now with a run on the inside with Jessica Shelton.
Calling it as I see it here.
Chuck McClure right there as well. Kelly Causey. Oh, big bump into the corner to the inside of Terry Bombard. He's in a must-win situation, so I guess it's a bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel for the Crisco machine.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all.
Do what you gotta do to advance into the round of 8.
Wait just a little bit longer.
We're at the point of no return, folks, so if a caution breaks out, we're going to stay up here at the front and watch them race back to the caution. We'll check any subsequent replays afterwards. But it's Sullins on the top, Causey on the bottom. Sullins has Terry Bombard as his wingman, Chris Emery on the inside, so you've got 5 zeros lined up there on the bottom of the racetrack.
And we got to 43 is trying to play a factor as to which line's going to move.
Wiley Coate, they're going to go around him, put him a lap down after he had to serve a pass-through penalty. Looks like that middle line has got the numbers right now, and Rodney Sullivan's going to take advantage of that. He's clear back to the point. Terry Bombard now side by side with Kelly Causey for second place.
Who's going to try to make a third lane? We've got 3 laps to go.
Brian Schilling has led the most laps. Ooh!
Well, Ulysses Sandoval says I don't think he wants to be a part of it, like, since he's not. Either he tried to make a third lane or he felt like something was going to happen and wants to kind of get out of that mix.
Gets shuffled to the back there. You've got Schilling who's led the most laps. You got Jeremy Jeffries back up here after we saw him on the apron over in 3 and 4. Chuck McClure, who won the last time we were here at this venue at the tail end of this pack. The outgoing champion, Richard Martin, is up here as well. Didn't win a single race last season, even though he won the championship, but he wants to break back into victory lane. Bobby Farrell in the 92 up here in the conversation as well. A great run for him as Garrett gets shuffled out to the outside line.
Front 2 are pulled away. I'm waiting to see if the 10's going to pull down, but nope, he does, but so does the leader.
That last time we hit the stripe, 2 laps to go, little over 5 miles remaining. Now Rodney Sullins defending the inside line.
They can make it to the white flag. It wouldn't matter when they wreck on the last lap. 00 going to be on the outside lane.
Causey trying to make something happen in a must-win situation.
Inside lane's really broken up. If the 38.
Oh, Greg Palmer!
No, please, no, please, no, please.
Oh, there they go. Up and over goes Martin and McClure and Garrett. We're racing back, and Causey is going to get pushed to the front. Kelly Causey's going to win here tonight. Must-win situation. The big question mark is, though, With the amount of points available on the table, would he have garnered enough to advance into the round of 8? Well, it wouldn't have mattered because it's a win and you're in.
I was going to say, you were just talking about how he had to win.
That's right, it's a win and you're in. So that's going to shift the cut line as well down an extra position. Who'd be the next one out?
I like how it was just, I turned into Anthony there. It was just like, no, please.
No, please. You went from commentator to driver. No, please don't come back up.
Yeah, but now these guys have to really slow down.
I'm trying to look over the finishing results here. Or at least who is scored right now in what position to see who would be the next driver eliminated. I think it might be Greg Palmer. I think Palmer's going to get eliminated by Causey winning this race. Palmer was also tied with Metallic for the cut line position, and we saw Palmer get out of shape. That led to that wreck off of turn 4. He crossed the line in 16th.
Yeah, he might be, Seth. He might have been.
When they came back to the caution, the white flag was waving, and Kelly Causey, with a big push from the pole sitter Brian Schilling, is going to advance his way into the round of 8. His first victory on the season, and it's a big one. Moving on to the next round of the playoffs. Checkered flag in the air, and Kelly Causey is your winner here tonight in playoff race number 2, the first elimination race. Back-to-back weeks of the playoff driver has gone to victory lane. Despirito and Causey locked in on wins. We still got to wait and see who the other 6 are that are going to join him.
And he spins out in turn 1.
Who was the culprit? There's always one. Who was it?
Could have been the 17th. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, Bob's
Whoa, Bob! What's Bob doing?
He tried to hit the 00 but missed, and then just because he's on the banking.
Big win here tonight for Kelly Causey.
It was the one.
It was Jeremy. Jeremy.
Bounced off the one.
When I say there's always one, I don't necessarily mean it's actually the one, but this time it was the one. Chuck McClure pulling up alongside, offering congratulations. It's not easy coming into these races in a must-win situation. Causey was unable to take part in last week's race at Talladega. Got provisional points, but was 34 points below the cut line, and there were only 30 drivers who took the green flag here tonight, so he absolutely needed to win. Had himself in the right place at the right time, had a huge push from Brian Schilling. And Kelly Causey going to come down here, and he's going to get to celebrate at the start-finish line as he will advance into the next round of the Season 61 playoffs. We know he's locked in. We know Joe Despirito is locked in. Grant Wesley, we have to wait and see if he built up enough of a points gap between himself and the cut line last week for his provisional points to still keep him above the cut line to advance. Chuck McClure finished 8th, so it looks like he would advance. Bob Seminara finished 17th, but he had 12 points up on the cut line. He finished down around a number of the cut line drivers, so I think he still would advance. Jeremy Jeffries, who brought it home in 4th, I believe he would move on. Rodney Sullins on the podium in 3rd, so he would move on. Brian Schilling, who brought it home runner-up, I believe he moved up above the cut line, so I believe he would advance into the next round. I do believe, and again, this is just based off of my rough math, that the 5 drivers that would be eliminated would be Josh Metallic, Greg Palmer, JT Mayhew, Mark Paglia, and Tim Nofsker.
It's rough, all right. We all know it's rough.
Oh, it's rough. It is 100% rough. There's nothing like saying that I know something for absolute certain and then seeing afterwards that I'm completely wrong. So that's why I say it's a rough guesstimate. Well, we'll be talking with our podium finishers here in just a moment. All playoff contenders, all moving on to the next round. Causey, Schilling, and Sullins. Jeremy Jeffries, another playoff driver, finishes in 4th. Terry Bombard, great run for him in the 5th position. Bobby Farrell in 6th, Jessica Shelton in 7th. A lot of the non-playoff drivers up here inside of the top 10. Chuck McClure in 8th. Where in the world did Doug Hewlett come from? He got 9th place here this evening. And Ron Hagelin going to complete the top 10. John Godfrey in 11th. Richard Martin 12th. Bob Dixon 13th. Then Glenn Harris and JT Mayhew complete the top 15. Greg Palmer 16th. 17th was Bob Seminara. John Van Gorder and Donnie Garrett were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap in 18th and 19th. Bernie Mobbs 1 lap down in 20th. Jason Scheck, Cy Jones. The streak comes to an end for Joe DeSpirito. 9 straight races inside of the top 5. 23rd place for him here tonight, but 1 week off of a locked-in Elite 8 spot for him, so a little bit of balm for the wounds, I guess, for him in that regard. Ulysses Sandoval in his debut, 24th. Tom Dixon and Mark Pagley were the last 2 drivers to finish the race in 25th and 26th. Wiley Coate, Chris Emery, Brian Rawson, and Josh Metallic did not reach the conclusion. A tough break there for the 39, who had a mechanical failure after leaving pit road, or at least I think he said on pit road, during the first green flag pit stop cycle. That will eliminate him from the playoffs along with 4 others. Before we head into our FRN post-race wind down, let's go back to turn 4. We said we would show you any incidents during the post-race, and let's take a look at what exactly happened here on the inside of the racetrack with Greg Palmer and a couple of others. 17 of Chuck McClure, I believe, went up and in the air. Might have been a bump in the corner from Richard Martin. Palmer trying to save it, comes back up, gets into Demar. Demar up into McClure. Wiley Coate gets up into the air there. There's Chris Emery on the inside. He hit the inside wall. And a 5-car incident there of drivers that were running up inside of the top 10, racing back to the white, is what ends this race under the caution. Let's head now into our post-race wind down, and let's see if we can.
You got questions, Seth?
Alrighty, and we'll see if we can dial up the drivers here tonight. All that will be advancing into the round of 8 are podium finishers, and we'll kick things off with the driver of the number 38, Rodney Sullins.
User was moved.
Hey Rodney, Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
What's happening, guys?
Crazy finish here tonight. He came into this race above the cut line, not by much, but still above said cut line. In the conversation for this race win here this evening, we know you love this racetrack, took 2 checkered flags at it back in season 60. Had that combination on the top there of the 00 and the 4. It really looked like here tonight, that middle line had a lot more momentum than we're used to seeing. The inside line just couldn't seem to be able to get that momentum off the corner. What little more do you need to be able to hold them off to be the one advancing to the round of 8 with a victory?
Well, you're 100% correct. It did. The middle line was really strong tonight. And congrats to Kelly. He missed last week for his daughter. Kelly's one of my teammates. I wasn't going to block him. When I seen him move to the outside, I actually moved up a little bit. I seen him in my mirror that he had moved up there, so I just went back low. He had to win to get in, and I knew that. And I wasn't. He's the one guy I wasn't going to block tonight, for the win. I wanted to win. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to win. Kelly's been a great teammate for me in the past, and I wanted to try to at least maybe repay him a little bit tonight and just not do anything illegal. I just didn't block him,
Well, points were super close, whether it was drivers above the cut line, on the cut line, below the cut line. I think there was only about 21 points separating 4th down through 11th. You were above the cut line by 7 points, so how difficult is it in that kind of a scenario with so many moving pieces on the racetrack, obviously pit road coming into play as it has in the last couple of weeks, in terms of keeping track of who around you is running where and where your positioning is as far as advancing into the round of 8?
Well, yeah, pit road. Last week that bit me. Two guys kind of got together, and I went to avoid them and wound up going outside, which gave me a 30-second penalty. And that pretty much was my night. And then tonight, I think somebody got into Bobby Farrell and spun him right in front of me. So I thought, oh no, deja vu. Here we go again. It's over. And was able, Bobby did a great job keeping it down, and I went around him. But yes, I was, I didn't really look at who was around me and stuff all night, honestly. I just was like, just drive, just wait till it comes down to the end when it matters, and then do what you got to do then. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to have won the race tonight, but I feel pretty good that I've moved myself into the top 8, finishing third. But we'll see when they tally them up. If I don't make it, then I'm gonna be really upset. But I didn't, Seth. Honestly, just didn't think about it much till it got close to the end.
Well, pretty sure based off of the calculations right now, it looks like you are advancing into that round of 8. We've seen you up in the Final Four competing for the championship numerous times. This particular racetrack is where it seems everything is happening this season. It was where we opened up the season. It was where we ended off the regular season. Of course, it's where the elimination races are, and ultimately, in about a month's time, we're going to be determining the championship here. So, how much emphasis do you put into performing at this racetrack in particular this season in preparation for if you advance into the Final Four again?
Well, this track, as you mentioned, this is where it all happens. Everything's decided at this track, and it is one of my favorite tracks. And I really was surprised that the low lane wasn't as strong tonight. So it's a little bit, I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch and see how much the third line came into play. I know I was in it some. That usually helps the low line. So I've got to watch to see, what was different, because the middle lane was for about middle on race was the lane to be in. So I got to go back and watch and see what happened.
Yeah, it was certainly interesting to observe up here from the booth as well. Kind of went against most of what we're used to seeing here at this particular racetrack here tonight, but it will be an interesting thing to follow up here in the upcoming elimination race in 2 weeks' time, and of course, in the final race of the season. Also, see if we see a little bit of the same or if that inside line will come back. But Ronnie, a great run for you here tonight to advance into the next round of the playoffs, bringing it home on the podium in P3. Congratulations. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Thanks, Seth. Michael, I can't wait to watch this Flatout Racing Network broadcast. You guys are top notch. Looking forward to that. I want to thank Race LM. We wouldn't be doing this without them and what they do. So if you're looking to start a league and need a server, they're the place to go. They're the place to go. Jason Scheck, 260 Motorsports. He helped us out last year, and I believe he's got a little bit in the game this year. Owners of RTG, Bones, and Prime. The admins for Talladega Challenge, Josh, Tim, and Wiley, and I hate it for Tim. Something happened, and he had to leave right before the green flag. Probably ruined his playoff chances. I'm sure it did. But all the other admins, all the drivers, I want to thank my dad for watching. Love you. Hope you enjoyed it. I know you'd like to sing that checkered flag, but had other things in mind. Kelly, congratulations. I know his daughter wedding missed last week, but congrats, Kelly. Great job. Great move. Glad you won. Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Brisa, Rock and Brews, and my Burnt Screwdrivers teammates. Thank you, guys.
Rodney Sullins, P3 here in tonight's elimination race. We'll see him and 7 other competitors battling it out in the round of 8 starting next week at Talladega. Best of luck then. Congrats on the good run tonight.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Let's see if we can now dial up the driver that brings it home in the second position. Another driver that's advancing into the round of 8, but he had to do so from below the cut line. Let's see if we can dial up Brian Schilling. Hey, Brian, Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, coming into this race, 1 measly point below the 8th in the standings cut line. Obviously had to keep an eye on some of those drivers that were up ahead of you, like Sullins, Metallic, and Palmer, but you got that number 1 pit stall in the pole position tonight on the random qualifying draw. How important was that for you in the scenario you were in coming into this elimination race?
It worked out great. I was able to stay up front for pretty much the entire race, lead the most laps, and get almost max points out of it. So definitely a very good night.
Yeah, 33 circuits out in front here tonight, most laps led on the evening. Now, up there in the conversation for this race win, the wreck takes place out of turn 4. You're side by side there with the 38. You got the 00 ahead of you. If you had that extra lap, did you have some kind of a move plan to be able to have this 4 parked in victory lane?
If things fell right, but I knew even finishing second was going to be enough to get me there. So I didn't want to, I knew how bad Kelly needed that win. So it's like, sometimes not winning is the best thing. Just to protect yourself in the point situation. If I, got racy with them, did something, took us both out, it's not good. So I was happy running second.
Now, last week at Talladega, you brought it home in the 8th position. Here tonight, a runner-up finish. You're advancing into the round of 8. So I got to ask you, you're a former champion. From a champion's point of view, going into this next round, where are you putting most of the emphasis on? Is it going to be at Talladega to open up this round, maybe get yourself an automatic locked-in spot into the Final Four, not have to worry about when we come back here in 2 weeks? Or are you putting a lot of the focus on this particular racetrack, maybe more importantly in the fact that it's the last race of the season when the championship is decided?
Yeah, just one race at a time for me, just get what I can get, and see what the next week brings, what I got to do to, get myself in the best position possible.
Well, a great run for you here tonight, Brian. Started on pole, bring it home in second. Looks like you're finishing 5th in the overall point standings as far as the playoffs were concerned, so well above that cut line to advance into the round of 8. Congratulations on that. Before we let you get yourself prepared for next week in that round of 8 starting at Talladega, we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
All right, congrats to Kelly on your win. Well deserved. Always a pleasure to race with. Just work with him really well. Jeremy, thank you for the push there at the end. Whoever was behind Jeremy, thank you also. Chuck, thanks for being my wingman early in that race. Always appreciate it. Good job, Rodney Sullins. Bummer that Timmy Nosker had to leave before the race started. So, but thank you, Josh. All the hard work he does week in, week out. Wiley, Tim, Sean Prime, David Cannon. All the work they do. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's always a good time.
Well, Brian Schilling, second place here tonight. He advances into the next round of the playoffs, back-to-back top 10 finishes. He'll look to keep this consistency going starting next week at Talladega Superspeedway. Best of luck there, Brian. Congratulations on the great performance here tonight.
Thank you.
Had that number 4 car
User
up
was
front
moved
all
out of your
night
channel.
long, but when it mattered the most, the proverbial final lap coming to the white flag and the caution, it was the driver that came into tonight in a must-win situation. Kelly Causey taking the checkered flag. He's down in victory lane. Let's see if we can dial
User
him up
was
now.
moved to
Kelly,
your
Michael, and
channel.
Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, when it comes to super speedway racing, one of the toughest things is to be in a must-win scenario. Here tonight, you overcome the odds, you get that checkered flag, you're moving into the round of 8. What kind of emotions were going through your head from turn 4 all the way down there to eventually receiving the white and the caution?
Well, it was, I didn't know if I was going to quite get there, It's when that last lap before we went to caution, uh, Rodney went down when the Terry went down, and there was an open to go back up top. So I went up top, and then Schilling got behind me, and there in 3 and 4 something happened, and I think at the top line we had the numbers. So I appreciate, Rodney could have probably come and blocked me, but he didn't, and allowed me to have that opportunity to get there. And Schilling did a great job pushing me, so it worked out. So it really, really, I was nerve wracking. I can tell you that much.
Well, in order to be able to take a checkered flag in this series, you got to have yourself in position to take that checkered flag. And here tonight, we saw a couple of cautions, but it really looked like in the closing stage of this race, it came down to execution on that final pit stop. How were you able to keep yourself in the conversation there? Because we saw a lot of incidents take place, not only coming to pit road, but also on pit road. Looked like it was pretty hectic here tonight.
Yeah, it was. There was one time it was right in front of me, but we had to slow down and or really weren't with the pack, but we were able to catch back up. But that last pit, I believe it was Rodney, myself, and Terry Bombard that all went in together and came out at the same time. And I think we all nailed it. And, Terry did a great job helping me at one time, pushing me from the outside. And I appreciate the help I got from him to get back up there to the front. Cause I started in third, I think on that last restart after caution and just went straight to the back and ended up getting behind Ulysses in the third line and got moved up. And then Terry also helping. So, you got to have some friends, got to have some help, got to catch some breaks, and kind of things went my way tonight. So it was interesting.
Yeah, you talk about there on that final restart, we saw you fade towards the back of the lead group and eventually work your way back forward. A great time to be able to get your first win on the season, but also when you consider the fact that this is the track we're coming back to where we eventually determine the final four and then eventually also determine the champion in the dual race of that final round. With what you were able to learn here tonight, in that must-win scenario, how does this help you in terms of experience of what you might be able to apply to advance into the Final Four for the championship when we come back here in 2 weeks?
Well, I really this track is not been my favorite, to be honest with you. A lot of things I've had a little more trouble, I guess, figuring it out compared to other people. The RTG track I seem to run a little better, but I think I finally kind of got a better idea of how this thing runs. It's very competitive, and you got to know when to move from what line to what line, depending on actually where all three lines are. And so there's little things that you have to do through the course of the race, and it's interesting, but yeah, I learned some things tonight, and just try to get better week to week, and get some help from all my teammates at Burnt Screwdrivers Racing and all that. So, but it's definitely a challenge, and I look forward to challenge. I'm just glad I got in there, man. I mean, and I hope Greg got in there. I know Rodney, I think, got in, but we'll have to see after they review the race and all that. I think somebody's got a provisional or something like that. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm excited about the next step in the playoffs.
Well, an incredible storyline for us to be able to follow into the round of 8. You advance into the next round with this victory here tonight. Congratulations, Kelly. Before we let you get back to your celebrating down there in Victory Lane, we're going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Well, I want to thank first of all for Frank Rodney, one for painting the car, that Buddy Baker car. I've been in that zero car, but as Delma said, he ain't never won a race. He always won a party, so I couldn't race that tonight because I had to win. But he did a great job on that Crisco car, and all the things he did during the race, helping me out there. And to my mom and my wife and my two kids that are watching. Shout out to them, and to you guys and the guys here at RTG, the great job they do. And it was it was exciting, and I'm thrilled to death about it, and I appreciate you guys.
Kelly Causey in that 00. He finds victory lane here tonight. Must win situation, and he capitalizes on it to advance into the next round of the playoffs. Congratulations on the job well done there, Kelly. Best of luck here starting the round of 8 next week at Talladega.
Thank you. See you next week.
Kelly Causey,
User was moved
another
out of your
different
channel.
winner on the season, captures that checkered flag and a locked in position into the round of 8. Now, the calculations are in. They are unofficial, though, based on the fact that I did look to check and see. I do not know for 100% certain if Grant Wesley did apply for a provisional or not, but if he did apply for a provisional, it was not calculated into the point standings that we are currently seeing. So, what I can tell you is I can tell you at least 7 drivers that are moving on into the round of 8. Joe DeSpirito is a given with his victory last week. Kelly Causey with the victory here tonight is an obvious lock as well. The drivers that I currently have situated in 3rd through 7th that would make it in on points would be Chuck McClure, Rodney Sullins, Jeremy Jeffries, Brian Schilling, and Bob Seminara. Those drivers we know for absolute certain will advance in on points. The question mark is whether or not we apply the provisional for Grant Wesley if there was one. If there was one, he would then, I believe, advance into the round of 8. If he does not have a provisional, it would be Greg Palmer who would move into that final slot. So it's a kind of wait and see as to who that final driver is going to be starting next week. We got to wait and see what happens here during the course of this off week. The drivers that we do know for absolute certain, though, that are eliminated from this, moving on to this round of 8, would include JT Mayhew, Josh Metallic, Mark Paglia, and Tim Nofsker. So we have to wait and see if it's Grant or Greg that will get that final position. But Michael, we mentioned it here after he took the checkered flag. A must-win scenario for a driver at a super speedway series. The odds are not in your favor at all of being able to be successful, and Kelly Causey overcame those odds. That is huge momentum for him to be riding into this round of 8.
Well, it's all about putting yourself in the right place, Seth, and we talked about that many times throughout this race, and he managed to put himself in the right spot. And then when that wreck happened, it was all she wrote after that. When the wreck happened, brought up the yellow. He was already had a good run on the outside lane, and he was there. So, fate's aligned for him in that 00 car to go to victory lane today.
I believe last week at Talladega, I think we had 2 cautions in that race, 2 cautions in this race here tonight. The points were close, but then again, we had 13 playoff contenders. Now we're going to have 8. That means there's going to be 5 more drivers that get shuffled into the non-playoff category starting next week. Lot more points on the table to be gained and or lost for the 8 drivers moving on into the next round. It's really looking like positioning and execution on pit road are the key factors into whether you're going to move on to the Final Four and maybe ultimately who's going to win this championship. So the road does not get easier for the drivers that are moving on to the round of 8.
Absolutely. It never does.
Well, an unbelievable night here in Bentonville, Arkansas at the Burt Screwdrivers Raceway. Kelly Causey.
Wait, you mean we're not in Talladega?
No, we are not. We are not in Talladega, Alabama. That's next week. That's next week. Yeah, tune in next week to join us in Alabama. Kelly Causey with the victory here tonight, though, to advance into the round of 8. And, of course, tune in next week as well when we will be able to give you the official 8 drivers that are going to be taking part in this next round of the championship. Tomorrow night, here on the Flatout Racing Network on the YouTube side, split-second broadcasting on the Twitch side, we're going to be bringing you coverage of race number 7 of the 5th season of the Upper Edge Racing Body Shop Super Speedway Series from the Atlanta Super Speedway. Green flag going to fly at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then join us back here next Thursday night as we begin the next round of the playoffs. It's the round of 8 at Talladega Super Speedway. Green flag will fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Michael, a great one here tonight. We knew being an elimination race we were going to have some fireworks, and we definitely got some in the closing stages. I appreciate you joining me up here in the booth.
Absolutely. Hopefully I'll be here next week, and I can't wait for it.
Thanks to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, be sure to join us next Thursday night as we continue on the 61st season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. But for Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.